Because we didn't have our own cleaning system to eliminate the wet weeds that inevitably contaminate the crop after harvest, we ended up needing to dry the entire harvest first to stabilise it. Doing this meant we didn't need to contract the seed cleaning firm immediately after harvest. In our first year, the planned storage area that we had on the farm fell through and our harvest was vulnerable to the extra damp conditions of the coastal farm. The higher relative humidity meant drying the grain without a proper grain dryer was problematic. We trialled a number of options which can be suitable for drying smaller quantities of grain. We dried a couple of dumpy bags at the processing unit by spreading it out onto the clean concrete floor and turning it regularly with rakes. This worked, but slowly. We ran 3 domestic dehumidifiers to remove moisture from the air. We then greatly improved this method by constructing a bed of pallets with sides to keep the crops in place, covered with cotton sheets which we laid the crop onto. Lifting the crop off the ground in this way meant that the air circulated more effectively and it dried faster. In collaboration with Schumacher College, a farm hack was organised. The students designed and built some grain spikes using drainage piping, which were inserted into the dumpy bags containing the crops. Air was sucked out or blown in using either a Henry vacuum cleaner or bathroom fans. In retrospect, it would have been easier to insert smaller grey water piping into the crop, of 5 centimetres in diameter. We found the vacuum cleaner to be more effective than the fans. However, the success of using the spikes was very dependent on the humidity of the external air. When we used them on the farm, there were times when we were pulling in air from the surroundings that was damper than the air in the grain sacks, with the result that much of our crop spoilt. It sprouted and had to be used for animal feed. If drying dumpy bags, ensure that they are placed on a pallet. If the grain spikes are used in optimum conditions using the hoover, the moisture levels can be brought down from 20% moisture to 14% within just a few days. This video shows the process of making the grain spikes. The grain we left at the farm was dried first with the spikes and later in a flatbed trailer with perforations in the bottom and a fan to blow warm air in from underneath. The trailer was not available immediately after harvest. There were competing needs for the trailer on the farm, plus the crop had been allowed to get too damp before the weather worsened, and we battled to get the moisture levels down sufficiently, resulting in us losing a lot of it. An option that we never used was to contract out the drying. Though invariably the contractors were busy drying crops on larger farms at the same time that we would have needed their services, and there was no guarantee that we would get them to come out in the short window after harvest whilst the crop was still in optimum condition. In order to avoid a repeat of the issues we had in the first year, we bought a gas-fired Lely dryer with an auger for the following year. This required a minimum of 2 tons of crop and could dry up to 6. It needed a reasonable sized, flat outdoor space and 2 tractors. One to run the dryer from the PTO shaft and the other to bring the dumpy bags over to the dryer. Clearly, this method has a relatively large carbon footprint. Harvesting the crop as dry as possible is paramount to reducing this. We were fortunate that our farmer allowed us to store the dryer in his barn, and we were able to both dry and clean the crop at the same site that it was harvested, saving considerably on the previous year's transport costs.